All right, everybody. What a day that was on the ice Wednesday night. The Avalanche played a hockey game. Off of it, they played some chess. We will discuss new episode of a Locked On Avalanche coming out.
Your Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for tuning in, making it your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. Make sure you're following us on social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter X, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram and Threads. Questions, comments, concerns, and opinions, LockedOnAvalanche@gmail.com. And follow us over on our YouTube channel. Hit subscribe, get notified when a new show goes live. Subscribe to our subtext as well. Never a better time than to join that now. Link to that is in the show notes below. Because when you do, you chat with Kyle and I one-on-one, and we get your thoughts and opinions on everything Avalanche, which we share on this very show. I'll let our subtext people know right now, because there's so much going on in this episode. We might hold all of the subtext comments till tomorrow, because a lot of you guys weighed in on the trade and the game. So I don't think we'll have time to fit everything in, but tomorrow definitely we'll what went on today, Wednesday, I should say, for the Avalanche can easily cover 2 days of Locked On Avalanche podcast. So we'll get to it again. It'll be a morning leftover for the day after in total for what happened with the Avs. But
yeah,
what a day, man. Unbelievable.
It's crazy. We did an hour-long episode about trades and hypotheticals, and guess what? Chris McFarland's like, that was good, boys. Why don't you do a 2.5 hour?
This is what McFarland did yesterday. McFarland was inevitable. He was inevitable. If you're watching, yes, that's exactly what it was. Yep.
Yeah, he wanted. He's like, that was nice. Well, you guys went for a full hour. Let's give you enough to do 3 hours of absolute like shows.
Oh my God.
I mean, you could talk about the moves, the game, everything around the Avalanche right now are literally buzzing.
Let's start let's start. We typically start with the game, but it's trade season and things happened yesterday for the Colorado Avalanche. So we're going to start with the trades. I guess we'll kind of go chronologically through the day. It was the trade deadline is Friday, Kyle. It is not Wednesday. But the way things were happening, you got the feeling that it was on Wednesday. And I don't know where things are always in motion, right? For the trade deadline, you're always on the phones. I'm sure, the Avs had guys that they had in mind that they wanted that were coming off of the board and things like that. And you saw Adam Henrique go. You saw Tarasenko get traded. I'm not saying it kind of like forced the Avs' hand to like, oh, let's do this. Maybe, if we had these planned for hold off as long as we could, but things are happening. Guys are going off the board. If they said we got to do these now, they stepped into action. And the first thing that they did was a deal with the Philadelphia Flyers to bring in defenseman Sean Walker. And right there, when you saw that happen, you were like, that's interesting, because defense, when we did our trade show yesterday, we did defense last because it's not really that much of a need for them. So when that trade came in, you had the mindset of like, okay, this could be shaping up for something else. It was, which we'll get to in a second. But the deal is the Avs get defenseman Sean Walker. Going back to the Flyers is a first-round pick in 2025, which, just a little asterisk on that, is a top 10 protected. I don't think any of us really think it's going to be a top 10 pick, but hey, if something goes wrong for the Avs, they can just pack it in and then get a first top 10 pick next year. And Ryan Johansen. So his time in Colorado was short and not so sweet, and they were able to unload him to the Flyers, who immediately put him on waivers. So who knows what's going to happen with him now. I'm sure he'll clear and do whatever. But in order for, it's one of those deals where it's like, okay, we want you to take Ryan Johansen. For us to do that, us being the Flyers, you're going to have to give us a first-round pick. So that's what they had to do.
And it was nice. Like, Sean Walker's great, and he's going to add a lot to this team. But Avalanche fans, when they saw Sean Walker come in, and the way the news broke, it was slow. It was weird. It was like watching an iceberg. You get Sean Walker, and then they say details are to come. And then you find out, oh, this is Ryan Johansen. And then immediately, instead of Ryan Johansen, everybody's like, 2C's coming. And then everybody just like turns their attention and they're waiting. Because why are you getting rid of Ryan Johansen if, like you said, we talked about defensemen last.
Mhm.
And we talked about a 2C is what this team needs. So why are you trading away a center? Why are you trading away Ryan Johansen? What is going on here? So yes, the Sean Walker he's going to be a valuable member of the Avalanche.
It's really good. He's a great player for this team, I think.
But like in the moment, I think a little bit of that was taken away because everybody kind of saw the writing on the wall on something else is coming. Who, what, where, why, how.
And you didn't have to wait very long. 15-20 minutes after you got word of the Walker deal. What everybody was thinking and talking about on social media, as far as the player, which is Bo Byram, it happened. Bo Byram was traded, and he goes to Buffalo for Casey Mittelstadt. And I'll say Mittelstadt was a guy that, in the back of my mind, I was thinking, like, I'd love to have him. I just don't feel like the Avalanche would pull that off for whatever reason. I just didn't think that they were really sold on him. But this is a move. People were really attached to Bo Byram, and I get that. Like, he's a number 4 overall pick. He's young. He's charismatic. He won a cup with you, and there's a lot of people that just did not want him to go. But I think for the Avalanche, this addressed a need in what you got for Casey Mittelstadt. And it's you can't always make a trade where it just benefits you. And you give up next to nothing or very slim going back the other way. And if you want to bring like 2C, and I said this with Gil, I did a short segment with Gil on Locked On NHL. Like, that position is important. And you need, if you want to bring somebody in for that, if you want to go the route the Avalanche had to go in the trade route, because we're not in free agency, obviously, you're gonna have to give up something. And unfortunately, it was Byram. So it's a pretty genius move here by Chris McFarland to bring in Byram's replacement before he even unloads Bowen Byram and Sean Walker. And you get Walker for cheaper than Byram, and you send Byram out, you bring in Casey Mittelstadt, and you are, when the trade season is around, you always want to, the first question you ask when it's done, and I'm not saying the Avalanche are done yet, we'll talk about that next. You always want to ask, are you better? I think the Avalanche are better.
Oh, yeah. The Avalanche are clearly better. They have money, and for McFarland to pull that off, to make the team better, and have more money towards the cap, it's just it's galaxy brain. It's an incredible move, and I know Bo going away. There's a lot of people that are a little bit sad, but
Sure.
we have to be real here. Like, we're not making a team of fan favorites. Like, there would be Pierre-Edouard Bellemare would still be here. JT Compher, who we just witnessed in the game, would still be a member of this. Like, this is business. And
Sure.
Bo Byram, let's be honest here. Like, for everything he is and was, I feel like we got the best of Bo Byram, and it's kind of averaged out a little bit. And what you're getting in Sean Walker, a little bit more experience and a little bit more of an upside, especially when it comes to the money side, and a little bit more of a proven commodity. So you improved the position. Yes, you lost somebody with great memories, and I understand. But guess what? He went to Buffalo with another member of the Avalanche, Eric Johnson, who's still sitting out there. That's another fan favorite. He was Mr. Avalanche, quote unquote, for a long time, and he's playing in Buffalo, where Bowen Byram is. So you have to kind of distance yourself from that feeling of, yeah, we had all these memories, but you also have to look forward. If you want to just talk about the memories, we could sit here and get bounced in the first round again, not have a cup and an embarrassing season, but have all your fan favorites and memories. Or you can actually put this team together and improve and then really give it your best shot going towards the playoffs.
Yeah. I agree with all that. So, but the only thing that I don't agree with is we got the best from Byram, because I think there was more in him, and he's only 22 years old. And I'll make my point. Let's get our first break in, and when we come back, I'll explain what I mean in that. Everything you said, agree with, except for that one little part, and I'll explain why. We'll do all of that coming up next. First, let's hear from Indeed, because no matter how the last game went, anytime you take the field, you've got a shot at greatness. Give your team the best shot at winning by recruiting more MVPs with Indeed. And if you're hiring, of course, you need Indeed, because Indeed is a hiring partner where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. And Indeed is the only job site where you're guaranteed to find quality applications that meet your must-have requirements, or else you don't pay. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites hoping to find candidates with the right skills, you need one powerful hiring partner that can help you do it all. And Indeed partners with you on every step of the hiring process. Find great talent through time-saving tools like Indeed Instant Match assessments and virtual interviews. And with Instant Match, as soon as you sponsor a post, you get a short list of quality candidates with resumes on Indeed that match your job description, and you can invite them to apply right away. Plus, you only pay for quality applications that meet your must-have requirements. So start hiring right now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/lockedon. Offer is valid through March 31st. That's Indeed.com/lockedon. Claim your $75 credit before the end of March 31st. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. If you need to hire, then you need Indeed. Also brought to you by Factor. And eating better is easy with Factor's delicious, ready-to-eat meals. Every fresh, never frozen meal is chef crafted, dietitian approved, and ready to go in just 2 minutes. You'll have over 35 different options to choose from every week, including Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and options like keto as well. Also, there are more than 60 add-ons to help you stay fueled up and feeling good all day long. So what are you waiting for? Get started today and get after your goals. We were looking these up beforehand. Some pretty interesting meals that they have over on Factor.
Yeah, especially for guys like me that do the protein meals. They definitely. I love what Factor has.
Are you the picky eater? Are you a picky eater, or no? You just whatever's in front of you, you will house it.
Oh, I will. I'm a dumpster. I will eat whatever's in front of me.
I got that impression. I don't know why. Yeah. I just got that impression. So head to factormeals.com/lockedonnhl50 and use the code LockedOnNHL50 for 50% off. That code again, LockedOnNHL50, LockedOnNHL50 at factormeals.com/LockedOnNHL50 to get 50% off over at Factor. All right, so you were saying how you thought that we got the best of what we were going to get out of Bowen Byram, and the only reason I'll push back on that a little bit is because he's 22 years old, so he still had I thought his development was fine. And sometimes when you have guys that are a high draft pick, and you have guys on your team that have excelled quickly, which is not normal. Sometimes a person in Byram's, like where he is held to a higher standard, and I think people wanted him to progress quicker than he actually did. And injuries played a part in that, right? So that
Mhm.
backed him up a little bit. And then this year you saw, I think he was coming out of whatever was wrong with him early in the year. I thought he was coming out of that. But I'll say this also, like the guy that you got for him, Casey Mittelstadt, he took time to
Mhm.
mature and develop, because it hasn't been until the last 2 seasons where that he's really started to break out and really become the player that the Avalanche are getting. And early, like he's the number 8 pick, I think, overall in his draft class, which was, I believe, was 2017. So he's been in the league for quite a while, and it hasn't been until recently where he's really. I mean, look, the Avalanche just gave you a guy that they rely on for him. So uh, I think if Byram can stay healthy, I think he's going to have a very solid, very good career. And what Buffalo is doing on the defensive end, we always talk about Cale Makar, how he's paired up with Devon Taves and vice versa. Whoever that they're going to put with Bo Byram, he could benefit the same way that those two guys do on the Avalanche. This move, it just benefits and satisfies both teams, which doesn't happen a lot for trades, no matter the sport. So I don't think either team is complaining right now about what they got with this deal.
And I can kind of agree with that, but I just had this feeling with how Bo's production was this year that this was another new hook Jost situation. And you could sit
Mm,
there and gamble every year on, well, we know what he could do. You see, he's got these flashes, maybe with this. This current Avalanche team is not built to develop Bo Byram. They're meant to go push and go get another cup, because you're paying Nathan McKinnon the like incredible money, and you're paying that top line incredible money to go get a cup. Bo Byram's
mhm.
development is not what this team is built around. And if he's not doing it, if he's taking a step back, that you could go to Loveland or you can go somewhere else, because this team is trying to push for a cup. And they've already learned their lesson with Newhook and Jost. And you could talk about Kaut. You could talk about all these other guys that they had so much hope and promise in. And you can't devote every year to, oh, just wait. Oh, just wait.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
eventually these windows will close and you're still just waiting.
look at the difference already in. You mentioned New Hook and Jost, but start with Jost. Even so lump Jost and Kaut together, and the
Mm.
patience they had with those two, and now look at New Hook and Byram
Yeah.
and how they didn't really have patience with those two. And New Hook was a little bit different, but with at least with Byram, it's like I don't feel like they got rid of him because they were unhappy with his development. I think they got rid of him because that's a business move that needed to be made. They could no longer wait around to figure out this 2C problem. They knew going into the playoffs this year, if you don't have that figured out, it's going to be another first round exit. And I think there's some people out there right now that's saying, like, I'm not sure Middlestat is the guy to figure that out right now. I would say it's better than what you had by far, by far. So you wanted, this to be figured out with Ryan Johansen. So that didn't work. So now you got to go in a different direction. And I think Casey Mittelstadt is fits this team better and should than what Ryan Johansen gave you. The other part of it is he's never played in the playoffs.
Mm.
So how does that, lights are a little bit brighter there. So we'll see what happens. But I don't know about you, but I think, the big name here is Byram leaving. Um, don't like to see it, but I completely understand it. In the 2C was that number one need all year, Kyle. All year. Once we realized that Ryan Johansen is not it continued to be the problem, and it was not going away. And the Avs addressed it.
Yeah, and then you saw the report that's kind of coming around now about what things have changed in the locker room around Rijo, and
yeah, I don't like seeing that stuff, man. Like
and
all this stuff comes out after the fact. Like, come on, like I think that's just whatever.
I bring that up not just to point at Rijo, but it makes me think about Taser's comments about playing the same way, and it makes me think about Bo Byram when it comes to his development. It really hasn't changed. It's only got worse, and you see it just more of a frustration thing. And Taser would be a defensive line mate at times, and he's accountable for that. So I wonder if that has something to do with these moves. And it's coming down the line, like Rijo and Bo Byram. We'll see if they do better. Rijo's already been waived and will probably be playing for Lehigh Valley. We'll see with Bo Byram and Buffalo, and we'll see if I know as of right now, the Avalanche are better because of these moves.
And the other thing that we haven't even touched on, they gained cap space in all of this. So are they done? The answer to that could be no. They have just about $5 million in cap space now. So, the move that they made with Curtis McDermott, they gained about $1 million. You bring in Sean Walker, who's much less than Byram, and some of that goes to Mittelstadt, but you gained money here in all of this. And everybody else in the league, and especially other teams in the division, have to be in like, how are the Avs doing this? Like, you had the other teams in the division, especially Dallas, who made some pretty good moves and were probably feeling pretty good about themselves. And then what happens a few days later? The Avalanche are like, okay, we'll keep up with you. So the fact that they have even more money to play with, they still can make moves if they want to. So it's not done yet. You still have Thursday and Friday. You might see another move up the Avalanche sleeve, especially with Vegas doing what they're doing, every single trade deadline. Do you think so? Do you think they're done, or do you think they got another move here?
I thought the Avalanche might be done after making such incredible moves, gaining money off trades. It's just ridiculous and unheard of. And then one shot, one goal on Alexander Georgiev. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe we're not done. Maybe the Avalanche need to go out and with this money. What's the going rate of a goalie right now?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's
tough. It's tough to pull in goals, the starting goalies at the trade market.
Yeah, it's one of those that the Avalanche have money, and McFarland could sit there and feel incredible about the moves he made, and then see that beginning, even though we'll talk about the game and how it ended, but that's not the start you want. And you're like, oh, here we go again. That's right. This is still an issue with the team. And then you turn back around and get back on the phone and start making moves again because you have 2 more days.
Well, let's talk about that game a little bit. I know we're only going into our third segment, so we don't have a ton of time to talk about it. So I'm sure some of it will carry over into tomorrow, like so much will. But let's talk about that game that the Avalanche won. They started with all these deals, and they had a game to play. And you're down Bo Byram, and you're down Ryan Johansen, and you still go out and you take care of business. So let's talk about that game. And obviously no nuke yet either. So let's talk about that. We'll do that next. First, that was brought to you by Robinhood. And did you know that even if you have a 401k retirement, you can still have an IRA? And Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer in from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. This offer is good through April 30th. Get started at robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal info. Claim as of Q1 2024, validated by Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of the first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% match on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, is a registered broker dealer. So despite all that, the Avalanche had a game to play, and it was a good one. It was a fun, exciting game against the Detroit Red Wings, which they win 7-2. It got, I say out of control or out of hand, but obviously for the Avalanche in a good way as the game went on. Thoughts on the game? You mentioned Georgiev, and it's more of the same for him. He gives up early goals and then settles down. It's not what you want. Clearly, if you want a strong start, and then if it's 7-0, you give up a couple goals. I think people can live with that. People don't like the giving up the early goals and then getting down. But I'll say this about this game in particular. You hear a lot from people in the Avalanche orbit that they never panic when they get down. And I think Devon Toews said it recently. He's like, we just stick to our game. And for this game anyway, that was absolutely true. You felt like they were just firing everything on net. And you did. Like, you felt like this was going to be maybe a shootout if Georgiev couldn't get his act together. He did. Avs just kept doing their thing to the tune of 7 goals, 3 of which came from Cale Makar. So he gets his first ever hat trick. So in the end, it was a dominant performance, but it started off a little bit iffy.
Yeah, and it goes again. I've lost my confidence in Georgiev, especially when the guy that's supposed to be in a backup role just threw back-to-back shutouts, and you're going 1 shot, 1 goal again. So, and we made the case for why Eustace should start the Detroit game, ride the hot hand, and then Georgiev comes in to counter the hot hand with a 1 shot, 1 goal. That's not the way you want to start. You just ruin all the hype from the moves of the day and where the Avalanche are going. And then you have all these visions of a returning Nuke coming up. You have Casey Mittelstadt coming in. You have Sean Walker coming in. And then even through this game, you got to see Jean-Luc Foudy. Who thought that was going to happen? Like, that was unexpected. And it's just not the way you want to start. Love the way the Avalanche ended it. 54 shots. Incredible. You won the faceoff after you traded Ryjo. You're winning faceoffs. That's incredible. Hey,
That's
2 for 3 on the power play.
Yeah.
What's going on? We're in upside down land, but this is what you want. But again, not a great start. Wonderful finish.
Do you I mean, is that what it is for you? Just to start, like, because he looked good the rest of the game. And if it was flipped, would you have more? I don't want to say flipped in that he's just giving up goals at the end of games. You don't want that either, because if games are tight, you don't want giving up goals. But is it just you're focusing in on the starts? And I'm not trying to explain this away. I'm just saying, like, I get that. You don't want that. You don't want to be behind early in the game. But I'm trying to take it in total here, because, like, yes, the starts have been bad. The rest of it was good.
Because it's one of those instances that we've seen this Avalanche team, the rest of them just not show up. And if you're starting off 1 shot, 1 goal, you're making it so much harder on yourself, and you don't have that much time. And you don't want to immediately give up please give me the discussion for why this is a good thing, because there isn't an answer. Like, you need to go wire to wire, and then the 1 shot, 1 goal, it's like, for it to be a theme, to be a running joke, and for it to be something you could say and identify with a player, it's a trend, it's a habit, and it's not good.
Yeah.
And you're making it so much harder on yourself to have to double down to tie the game and then get the lead. Like you shouldn't have to be this way. It shouldn't have
Yep.
to be this way. So yes, it's not a great way to start. And if it came down to one of those that you kind of fall apart towards the end, that's just kind of expected with the way momentum goes. But to
Yeah.
start every game one shot, one goal, it's kind of laughable at this point.
It's odd. It is very odd that it's happening like that. So, as far as the game went, and we'll get into more of it tomorrow, but it had the old school vibe
Uh,
of Avs and Red Wings, did it not? The old '90s, the greatest rivalry that was. Um, it did, and you saw Ross Colton get into it, guys. You saw Miles Wood getting into it with guys. Like it wasn't the duration of the game, more confined to maybe like the second period. But when it was happening, it was good. And I'm like, oh, let's fire this tank up again. Why not? And Ross
what
Colton, stick taps to you, sir, for making old guys like us have that feeling when we were teenagers of the 90 rivalry. That was so good.
Yeah, it was that Miles Wood going into Alex Lyon, just knocking him out, and then it was one of those that they all stand up and everybody's looking at each other and like, oh yeah, we hate each other.
We're supposed
And
to. We're supposed to hate each other. Yeah.
it is, and I love it. It was wonderful. It felt like old school Avalanche
Good.
wings, and it just kind of was perfect that it was on TNT, so they got to play it up, and you get to
Yeah.
see that rivalry highlighted again on a national stage. But hey, if this is going to be one of the beginning of the new kickoff to the
Mhm.
rivalry, because hey, JT Compher is over there, like
Yeah, right.
it's just a fun little thing. So I kind of hope that the rivalry gets renewed.
Yeah, I'm not putting much faith in that, but at least for this game for a little while, you did. You had those old memories. And the Avs were just too much. They were just too even down Byram, and I'll say Ryan Johansen. Not that he was giving you a ton, but he was there. He's been there for the whole season. He was comfortable. You knew what you were getting with him. um, the Avs just they had too much firepower for Detroit, which is weird because you just played these guys, and I know that they're down Dylan Larkin, which is huge. But they're going through a little bit of a rut. I think this is their third straight loss now. So it was just too much for Detroit to handle.
How is this Cale Makar's first hat trick?
um,
This
I
feels like
mean,
a when they
yeah,
announced that in the broadcast, it felt like a Mandela effect. It felt like I've seen this 2 or 3 times. How is this not possible? But
yeah.
yeah, Kale's first
It,
hat trick. Who
it's
would
his
have
first
known?
hat trick. So across the board, you had good numbers here. Nathan McKinnon with a 4-point night. Uh, Mikko Rantanen with a 4-point night, all assists. Cale Makar, obviously, he had the hat trick and another goal or an assist, excuse me. So he had a 4-point night. So Jonathan Drouin had a goal
Mm.
and an assist. So yeah, it was just too much for him to handle. So you get 54 shots on net, and I think the Corsi was like 94. So you had another 40 shots thrown towards the net. Just they couldn't stop him. Couldn't stop
Yeah.
him. So um we will have more tomorrow. Definitely. We got, like I said, there's a lot of subtext people that want to chime in here. We will get to that tomorrow. So if you want to be one of those people, subscribe. The link is in the show notes. If anything else happens tomorrow with the Avalanche, you never know. It definitely could. So we'll talk about that as well. Whatever happens, tune back in tomorrow. But for this one, thank you for making it your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. He is Mr. Shaggy Badoom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. I gotta go to bed. That was a long day. That was a long 24 hours. But I will say this: let's do it again tomorrow.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So, all right, everybody. See you tomorrow.